بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ثم أما بعد. To proceed, so this is our second session here on al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya, or the coherence of Shariah, legal maxims according to the Hanbali madhab, or legal maxims with Hanbali applications and others. You know, if you remember last time we talked, we didn't cover much last time because it was the first class, but we tried to cover the introduction. When I went home, I regretted the fact that I didn't give you a bird's view of the book because that should be part of the introduction. Did I? No, I didn't. So basically what I talked about last time is why we chose al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya, benefits of learning al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya for the beginners and the intermediate level, and everybody will get something different from this class, whether they are, you know, beginners, intermediate, or advanced. And I also, you know, talked a little bit about, you know, my methodology in teaching this particular class, but I have not really told you about the structure of the book, which I should have. So I will do this today, inshallah. Here is the structure of the book. The book is 4 sections. The book on al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya is 4 sections. The first section is a tamhidi. It's basically an introductory, preliminary introductory section. And the first section is where we will discuss the 10 principles that should be discussed when you introduce any particular field of knowledge or any particular discipline to people for the first time. That will be discussed in the first section, and I will come back to it. So we will have 4 different sections. And if we go from left to right, I guess, this is English, I guess. So we'll go from left to right. So al-Bab al-Tamhidi is the first. So it's introductory. And then the second one will be al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya al-Kulliyya al-Kubra. So we did talk briefly about al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya al-Kulliyya al-Kubra. These are the grand legal maxims, the grand universal maxims, or the grand legal maxims. And we said that they are 5, and then they have basically branches. And the 5, we said al-umur bimaqasidha, these are but by their intentions, or judged by their intentions. And we said, you know, al-yaqin la yazul bil-shak, certainty is not overruled by doubt. We said la darar wa la dirar, should be no harm or reciprocation of harm. We said al-mashaqqa tajlib al-taysir, which means hardship begets ease or concessions. And we said al-aada muhakkama, customs are given consideration. These are, you know, and I was very keen on mentioning these in the first class because they'll give you some tasawwur, some conceptualization of what this science is about and what we will be discussing in this science. Each of them will have branches. So these are called the grand al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya al-Kulliyya, Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya, and we will come to the definition very shortly, inshallah. So we will explain what al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya and al-Kulliyya and al-Kubra means. But these are called the grand legal maxims. So the second section of the book will be about the grand legal maxims, the 5 and their branches, the 5 and their branches. The third section of the book will be about the independent legal maxims. And I did mention a couple of examples of independent legal maxims. At-tabi', for instance, secondary is secondary. You know, so when you have secondary clauses in a contract, they basically assume the ruling of the primary or the subject matter of the contract. They don't have an independent ruling for them, and then they have branches also. This at-tabi' would have branches. And the al-i'mal awla min al-ihmal, which is basically to employ every part of the speech, is given precedence over neglecting any part of the speech. There are other Qawaaid fiqhiyya that we cannot fit neatly under one of the 5. So they're called independent because they cannot be organized under the 5 grand legal maxims. So they are kulliyya, and some people call them as-sughra, the minor. I said I would refrain from calling them minor because they're really not minor in any way. They're great legal maxims, but they were not, the grand title was not conferred on them. The kubra title was not conferred on them. So that will be غير الكبرى. This is the only way I can express this. غير الكبرى, which will be other than the grand. The grand. Okay. غير الكبرى. And then you will have the last section in this book will be called al-Dawabit al-Fiqhiyya. And we will come to the distinction between al-Dawabit and al-Qawaaid. Al-Dawabit will be the regulators. And briefly, al-Dawabit will be Qawa'id Fiqhiyya that are specific to specific chapters or to certain chapters. So if you have a Qaida Fiqhiyya, the scope of its operation is limited to one chapter, you don't call this Qaida. Qaida has basically to cross the borders between chapters. It has to be لِيَقِينَ لَا يَزُولُ بِالشَّكِّ, or certainty is not overruled by doubt. Does it cross? It crosses all the borders. You can apply this anywhere in fiqh. But if you have a qaida that is limited to one particular chapter, or a dabit that is limited to one particular chapter, whether it is, I said that I would consider, although it would be controversial, كل قرض جر نفعا فهو ربا, I would consider it a regulator, a dabit, not a qaida, which means every loan that will accrue a benefit for the creditor is riba. Why am I considering this a regulator? Because it is limited in scope. Like you can't apply this in al-ibadat, or you can't apply this in marriage. You can't. So it is limited in scope within a particular chapter. So it would be called dabit or a regulator. That is basically the structure. That's the bird's view of the book. And by doing this, if we finish, inshallah, I hope that we do, then we will have covered to a great extent the subject of al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya. And I did tell you that the applications will be heavily Hanbali, and if you're not, then you should take these Qawaaid because most of them are agreed upon, and you should find applications in your madhab if you have another one. So last time, we were just about to start al-Bab al-Tamhidi. Last time, we were just about to start al-Bab al-Tamhidi. Which has basically the introductory principles that we talked about. إن مبادئ كل علم 10 الحد والموضوع ثم الثمرة نسبته وفضله والواضع الاسم الاستمداد وحكم الشارع والبعض بالبعض اكتفى ومن در الجميع حاز الشرف. So we said there are 10, and then we'll translate all of them. But how do I intend to cover the 10 when you receive the following documents? Just because the 10 are not organized in the same order of these verses. And certainly you should not limit yourself. Poetry has limitations. And we should be people of substance, not form. Formalities and forms are not as important as substance. So poetry has limitations. Certainly I would not organize the introductory chapter in the same order that was mentioned in the verses, because in poetry you have to basically pay attention to the meter, but when you organize a book you have to pay attention to the logical order of the subjects. So here is how these will be discussed. The 10 will be discussed in this way. We will first start by التعريف والموضوع. And under التعريف والموضوع التعريف would be definition. الموضوع is what? Subject matter. Under التعريف والموضوع, we will talk about, this in the same, this is أولاً. So I divided this into 5 sections. The first one is التعريف والموضوع and الفروق. الفروق, which we will come to, that these are the distinctions between legal maxims and other related sciences. And when we say other related sciences, which part of the 10 principles are we discussing here? Relationship, nisbatuhu, its relationship to other sciences. So we will talk, when we talk about al-furuq, distinctions between legal maxims and usuli maxims, principles of jurisprudence, or the science of al-furuq, the science of distinctions, the science of, al-ashbah wal-nadha'ir, the science of al-nadariyat al-fiqhiyya, legal theories, the difference between the qaida and the madrak and al-mudrak or madrak, as most of the fuqaha call it, and so on. So here in one, we would have covered the 3 of the 10 elements of these introductory principles. Number 2 that we will cover when it, here will be al-istimdad, right? We will cover al-istimdad as number 2. No, I'm sorry. I think we will cover al-aqsam wal-masail, because that comes next after al-aqsam wal-masail. Al-aqsam basically would be divisions. Al-masail, the topics of the science, the topics of the science. But this is basically not addressing the topics individually, but a bird's view of the divisions and the topics of the science will be discussed in number 2. Number 3 will be a discussion of al-istimdad. And al-istimdad, of course, comes right out of the 10 principles. It's called al-istimdad. Al-ism al-istimdad hukm al-shara. Al-ism, we will not discuss the al-ism. Al-ism is the name of the topic. So this will, that's what we are talking about all the time. So we will not discuss the al-ism or the name of the topic, even though the definition will be a discussion of the name anyway. Al-istimdad means what? The sources of this science. Where do we deduce the science from, or where do we bring the science from? And then 4 will be al-zuhur wa tatawur. Al-zuhur is what? The emergence, so the beginnings of the science. Al-tatawur would be development or progress. Development. I'll get used to it. It's my first time using this type of thing. So beginnings and development. So where is this when it comes to the 10 principles? Al-wada, nisbatuhu wa fadluhu wal-wada. Al-wada, the founder. So founding will be discussed here. And finally, number 5, we will discuss multiple things in number 5 because they are interrelated. We will discuss al-thamara, the benefit of learning this knowledge. We will discuss al-hujjiyya, hujjiyyat al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya, which is not included in the 10 principles. That is the proof value of al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya, the proof value of al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya. And we will discuss al-hukm, the hukm of learning al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya, and that is one of the 10 principles. So al-thamara is one of the 10 principles, al-hukm is one of the 10 principles, that's the benefit and the ruling of learning it. We say, إن مبادئ كل علم 10 نسبة وفضل والوضع الاسم الاستمداد حكم الشارع. حكم الشارع is the ruling of the legislator when it comes to learning it. So 5 will be al-thamara, that is the fruit or benefit of learning the science. Al-Hujjiyya, the proof value, because it's part of the summary. You want to know how you will be able to use al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya. Are you going to be able to use al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya to deduce rulings? Will you be able to use al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya as evidence? Will you be able to use the qaida? Can you bring a qaida and use it as evidence? And we will discuss what he said about this. And then al-hukm. Basically, do you have to learn al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya? Does everybody here have to learn al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya? Does every Muslim have to learn al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya? This will be discussed under al-hukm. So, have we covered the 10 here? We should have. We said al-ism, we will not, that's what we were talking about all the time. So al-ism will not be discussed. So we need to come up with 9. Okay, where are the 9? The definition, subject matter, the relationships with other sciences, masail, 4, al-istimdad, 5, that's the sources, the founder, 6, thamara, the fruit or the benefit, 7, al-hukm, 8. We're missing 1. Where is it? Fadluhu. Fadluhu will be, like I said, this will be where we discuss thamara, the benefit. We will discuss the fadl of the knowledge or the virtue of this knowledge when we discuss the benefit and its proof value and its hukm. So all of these are interrelated, so this will be discussed here. So that is how we will cover all 10 principles, insha'Allah. Okay. Then, so we said that we should start by ta'rif, the definition and the subject matter. We want to introduce this science. Certainly we should start by a ta'rif. And we will talk about al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya, what this definition means. Al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya. Okay. Last time we wasted a lot of time talking about definitions as part of the science of logic. We didn't waste the time, but some may think it was wasted because it's not directly related to this particular discipline. But last time we talked about definitions as basically in Aristotelian logic, definitions would be necessary for conceptualization. In the Taymiyan critique of Aristotelian logic, definitions are neither necessary nor sufficient for conceptualization, but they are important distinction to distinguish one thing from another. Because when you say, like, the human is a rational animal, that would not give you a conceptualization unless you have seen a human being. You know, like really, if you haven't seen a human being and you say the human is a rational animal, what is an animal? And what, you need a definition for every element of this definition. And then you need another definition for the breakdown and so on and so forth. And it will not result in conceptualization. So it is not sufficient. Is it necessary? No, it's not necessary. But it is important still. It is valuable still. Valuable for what? To distinguish one thing from another. So that is what ta'rif is about. And in order for a ta'rif to distinguish one thing from another, what have we, basically, the scholars of Islam, what have we required in a definition? We required in the definition to be jami', mani', muttarid, mun'akis. And We require ظهور, ظاهر, you know. So when you define something, when you say, what is the definition of Asad? You say غضنفر, ليث. Asad is clearer than the other names for the lion. So you don't use a sort of a more subtle name to this is called the nominal definition, when you define one word by another word. It's called nominal definition. So you don't define one thing by something that's more subtle than it. So it has to be clearer than the defined. The definition will have to make the defined clearer to the listener. Okay? So this, we will not talk much about this because it's clear. But what is jama'? Jama' means what? Inclusive. What is mana'? Exclusive. What is muttarid? Universally applicable. Universally applicable. What is mun'akis? Reversible. Okay, so jama' inclusive, what does that mean? It means that the definition would be inclusive of all that is defined by it. Like you will not find, so when we give a definition for al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya, no one can come and say, here is a Qa'ida Fiqhiyya, this definition does not apply to it. No one would be able to say this. It is inclusive, okay? Exclusive means what? No one will come and say, this is not a Qa'ida Fiqhiyya, this is not a legal maxim, but your definition still applies to it. Then we have not excluded everything that is not meant to be part of the defined, that is not meant to be part of the defined. How is muttarid and mun'akis? Muttarid means universally applicable, and mun'akis means reversible. Muttarid is like mana', and mun'akis is like jama'. Muttarid, so whenever you find the definition, you find the defined. Whenever whenever the definition, whenever there is the definition exists, the defined exists, and this would be the opposite. So muttarid, universally applicable, will mean exclusive. Whenever you mention the definition, it will apply. It will apply, meaning it does not apply to anything that is not part of the defined, which means exclusive. Here, whenever you find the defined, you find the definition. Whenever you find the defined, the definition will apply to it, which means that there will not be anything that is part of the defined that your definition does not apply to it. Therefore, it is inclusive. Just remember, muttarid, universally applicable, is like mana', and the mun'akis, reversible, is like jama' or inclusive. Your definition needs to be inclusive, needs to be exclusive, needs to be universally applicable, needs to be reversible, and needs to be clearer than the defined. This is a good definition. Okay. Okay, so now let's define al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya. So when they define al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya, and usually that is something they do, they start by a linguistic definition, and then they give a terminological definition. A linguistic definition followed by a terminological definition. And when they need to give a linguistic definition, if the name or the subject is given basically one lafz, that is one utterance, one word, then it's easy. We just define this. But if it is like al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya, Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya is one word or two words? That's two words. So when they want to define something like this, they'll say this is murakkab, lafz murakkab. Murakkab meaning compound or composite. In logical terminology, the word is composite. versus simple, simple versus composite. So they will say that this is lafz murakkab to say what? To say, I need, therefore, to define each element of this, and then I can give you a definition of the tarkib in totality. But I will need to divide each element of this. Why do I need to define each element in this? Because what kind of murakkab is this lafz? Okay, so maybe we'll go on a tangent here. I'll come back, but we'll do it, because this is helpful. The concept of mufrad and murakkab, mufrad is what? Simple. Murakkab is what? Like I said, composite or compound. This concept applies in different disciplines, and it has different applications and different conceptions in the different disciplines. So, for instance, the discipline of linguistics, or for us, it's nahu. You have the discipline of logic or mantiq, and you have the discipline of philosophy, particularly philosophy of metaphysics, or theosophy, if you may, theosophy, philosophy of metaphysics. So these are three different disciplines. Mufrad and murakkab apply, they have different conceptions in these disciplines. In linguistics, because we care in linguistics about the utterances, the words, here we care about concepts and mafahim, conceptions, and logic. So in linguistics, a lafz al-murakkab would be, so let me tell you this. When you say, Ghulam Zaid, this is the common example they give. But since we're in a Hanbali, okay, we'll do it Hanbali way. Ghulam al-Khallal. Ghulam al-Khallal. Ghulam al-Khallal, al-Khallal's boy. Khallal Abu Bakr, al-Khallal, the person who basically brought together all of the sciences of Imam Ahmad in his Jama' encyclopedia, or the large book. His boy, his servant, Abu Bakr Abdul Aziz, his servant was called Ghulam al-Khallal because he's always around al-Khallal. So they called him Ghulam al-Khallal, or al-Khallal's boy, or al-Khallal's servant. He is actually a student, and he is, in fact, al-Dhahabi said, no one in the Hanbali madhab came close to Ahmad except al-Khallal, and after al-Khallal, Abu Bakr Abdul Aziz, his student, called Ghulam al-Khallal. Okay, Ghulam al-Khallal is simple or composite? Composite? Yes, it is composite. Composite until, and in linguistics it will be composite. But when we study linguistic significations in logic, so we have two mabahith in logic. One is linguistic significations, and the other one is mabahith al-tasawurat, conceptualization. So when you study linguistic significations, in logic, these are called the mabahith dalalat al-alfaz. And this is al-tasawurat, conceptualization. Okay, Ghulam al-Khallal when you, here in this study, in these chapters, linguistic significations, is it composite or simple? Composite. When does it become simple? When it becomes like a proper name, it becomes simple. When you say Abdullah, the servant of Allah, composite or simple? Composite. Does it become simple? Yes, if it becomes a name. When does it become simple when it's a proper name? Huh? Because it refers, yes, because لا يدل جزء اللفظ على جزء المعنى. So the difference here in this particular discipline between simple and composite, simple, part of the expression refers to part of the meaning. No part of the expression refers to any part of the meaning. That is لا يدل جزء لفظه على جزء معناه. So no part of the expression refers, like when you say Zaid. Zaid. Okay. This is part of it. Al-Zay is part of it. Does it indicate part of the meaning? No. When you say Abdullah, part of the expression indicates part of the meaning? Yes. Servant of Allah. When this becomes a alam, like a proper name, Abdullah may not be praying to begin with, right? Unfortunately, but there are many people called Abdullah, and they don't pray, and they don't worship God, and they have nothing to do with God. So in this case, does every part of the expression refer to part of the meaning, or do these two parts of the expression refer to parts of the meaning? They don't. It's just a proper name. In this case, it would be simple or composite? Simple, not composite. Okay, so this is in linguistic signification. What about the conceptualizations, tasawurat, conceptualizations or tasawurat? Abdullah, is it simple or composite? Simple. Never composite. Because in السلم العلامة الأخضري رحمه الله said إدراك مفرد تصورا علم ودرك نسبة بتصديق وسم. إدراك مفرد, to recognize a simple word, this is here mufrad means what? Objective thought. In the discipline of conceptualization, mufrad is not a word, it's an objective thought. Is this one objective thought? Yes. إدراك مفرد تصورا علم is known as a conceptualization. When you recognize a thought, that is known as conceptualization. ودرك نسبة بتصديق وسم. And when you recognize a relationship between two things, two categories, when you recognize a relationship between two categories, that is called what? Tasdiqat, or assertions or tasdiqat. So in this particular discipline, the simple versus the composite, is it one objective thought? Yes, if it is one objective thought, that is amenable to believing or denying. Can you believe this or deny it? Can you believe Zayd or deny it? What do you mean? What? Believe what? When you say Zaydun qa'im, Zaydun is standing, now you can believe something or deny it. Then now we can believe something or deny it. And then in philosophy, I'm not going to go there because I'm not coming back if I go there. But this is why in Aristotelian logic God has to be radically simple, and there should not be any composition, because you would need a composer, and that is why they said that God cannot have any qualities, has to be radically simple, and we can refute this, all the time. But anyway, yeah. Plus? Really? Here? Oh, interesting. So we will not go there. So now this al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya, al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya, mufrad or murakkab, simple or composite? Composite. What type of composition? There are two types of composition. There is one type of composition which is called the tam and naqis, complete and incomplete. The composition that is called the tam is where you can just, it's a jumla mufida, you know, it's basically a statement that will be sufficient, that will be complete. You don't need to say anything more. And the jumla al-mufida can be two types, declarative and imperative. Imperative, we don't care about it. It doesn't matter to us here or in logic. We're talking about the declarative. So declarative and imperative, khabariyya and insha'iyya. Declarative is khabariyya, imperative is insha'iyya. When I say you hold this pen, what is this? Imperative or declarative? Insha'iyya or khabariyya? Insha'iyya, imperative. Is this subject to believing and or denying? No, it's not. So, and don't care about any qadiyya or proposition that is not subject to believing or denying. It's just a command, just an imperative statement. So we will not need to deal with this here. Now you have the declarative statement. The declarative statement has to be complete. When I say to you, okay, so I meet Abu Ayyub and I tell him Muhammad Hasaballah. And then he says, so what about him? And I say, the one who lives in Patterson. And he says, yeah, so what about him? He went to Medina. Now he says, okay, thank you. You've basically shared the benefit with me. He went to Medina. When I said the ones who lives in Patterson, what is that? Okay, is this tarkib? Muhammad Hasaballah the Pattersoni. Is this tarkib, or, you know, he's not, but is this tarkib? Tarkib, okay. But is it helpful? No, it doesn't, you know, it's helpful in one sense. So, okay, tarkib here, this is a composite statement here. It's certainly incomplete. I have to basically say, so what? What is wrong with him, or what about him? So when you say, okay, so a tarkib here would be two types. Qualifying, you know, aside from al-isnadi, which is the predicative statement that will, you know, that will be complete, that will share some benefit. Went to Medina, predicative statement. Came back from Hajj, predicative statement. Now you have told me something, you know, that I can learn, that I may be able to say, no, I don't believe you. He didn't go to Medina. He didn't come back from Hajj. He never went to Hajj. You know, I can say that. Or, I believe you. Yes, he went to Medina. So, this will be isnadi, predicative statement. But if it is not a predicative statement, then it can be taqyidi or غير taqyidi. غير taqyidi. Whatever. Non-qualifying. When I say fil bayt, and just say fil bayt, this is composite or simple? Composite. Taqyidi, qualifying, no, not. In the house, I was, you know. When I say to you, Muhammad al-Madani, Okay, this is qualifying or not? Qualifying, because I restricted basically your thoughts about, which Muhammad to Muhammad al-Madani. Muhammad al-Madani. Muhammad al-Madani is different from Muhammad al-Makki. There could be more than one Muhammad in Medina that are called Muhammad al-Madani, but is it still qualifying? It's still qualifying. It's still qualifying. So what type of qualification is that? So when you have qualifications, you have, or al-murakkab that is qualifying, al-murakkab al-taqyidi could be idafi and wasfi. Idafi or wasfi. Idafi, this is basically the genitive composition. Genitive composition. And wasfi, this would be descriptive composition. Okay, al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya, genitive composition or descriptive composition? Al-Fiqhiyya is صفة or مضاف إليه. صفة. صفة للقواعد. So it is descriptive composition. It is wasfi. It's taqyidi, qualifying, and the type of it is wasfi. How can we make it genitive composition? You say قواعد الفقه, yes. قواعد الفقه. قواعد الفقه would be the principles of fiqh, the maxims of fiqh. Maxims of fiqh. Is this a genitive composition? It is a genitive composition. Now, al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya is fiqhi maxims. In both cases, they are qualifying. And in this is why al-Murakkab al-Taqyidi, the qualifying composite statement, you have to break it down in your definition so that you could figure out what each part of it means, and then you can conceptualize the definition in its entirety. Okay, so here we have al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya. Then we will need to define al-Qawaaid, and then we will need to define al-Fiqhiyya. Al-Qawaaid is the plural of qaida, which means, I'm going to have to speed up a little bit. Qawaaid is plural of al-qaida. So qaida means in Arabic foundation. The foundation of a building, qaida. وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ. And remember when Ibrahim was raising, or the qawaid, or the foundations of the house, or establishing, building the foundation of the house. The foundations of al-Kaaba, asas al-Kaaba, the foundation of al-Kaaba, the pillars upon which the structure is established. So that is the definition of al-Qawaaid in the language. Al-Fiqhiyya, everybody knows al-Fiqhiyya. Now, if you want to define al-Qaida terminologically, al-Fiqh in the language means al-Fahm, understanding, comprehension. But al-Fiqh for the istilah, we will come to it. If you want to define al-Qaida terminologically, what would you call it? Okay, so it is qadiyya kulliyya or amrun kulli. The exact definition that is supplied here is قضية كلية منطبقة على جميع جزئياتها. So القضية الكلية تنطبق على جميع جزئياتها. قضية كلية منطبقة على جميع جزئياتها. It's a universal principle or proposition because, you know, these are heavily influenced by, the definitions are heavily influenced by logic. So it's a universal proposition that applies to all of its particulars. Universal. قضية means proposition. كلية means what? Universal. Universal is basically the opposite of جزئية, right? جزئية means particular. And the difference between the particular and the universal is the universal لا يمنع الاشتراك. There are different members in this category. Different members that share in the same category. When you say Asad, lion, different members share in this category. When you say Muhammad, you know, meaning this Muhammad, this is جزئية, particular. No, this is not true. No members share in this category. It is a particular, basically, category. So here it is قضية كلية, universal proposition. تنطبق على جميع جزئياتها. تنطبق على جميع جزئياتها. Applies to all of its particulars. And that is why it is called قاعدة. It is a principle. It applies to all the particulars. اليقين لا يزول بالشك. You know, certainty is not overruled by doubt. Will apply to many, many, many particulars. So I hope that this is clear. Now, so if you want to define fiqh, how do you define fiqh? Terminologically. الأحكام العملية المكتسبة من أدلتها التفصيلية. الأحكام العملية المكتسبة من أدلتها التفصيلية. All of this is in the document I shared with you. Huh? الأحكام العملية الشرعية. Okay, الشرعية. So rulings. العملية practical. الشرعية شرعي. مكتسبة would be deduced from أدلتها evidences. It's a count word, by the way. You know, in modern English, it's not a count word, but it is a count word. You could say evidences. التفصيلية detailed. So al-fiqh is, you know, fiqh is when you give one of 5 categories, or in the Hanafi madhab 7 categories, or 7 values to every human action. Every human action will belong to one of 5 categories. What are they? الوجوب, الاستحباب, الإباحة, الكراهة, التحريم. Obligation, recommendation, or preference, permissibility, karaha, discouragement, tahrim, complete prohibition. These are 5 legal values. About giving one of these 5 to every human action. If you're scratching, what is that? Halal, haram, what is it? It's permissible. Okay, so it is permissible to scratch. Anything, just imagine anything, any human action, any action of the accountable entity will basically be given one of these. Is this suffocating? Because the default for us is permissibility. The default for us is permissibility when it comes to customs, when it comes to things that are not ibadat. The default for us is permissibility, so there is no suffocation here. Okay, so you got the definition of al-Qawaaid, you got the definition of al-Fiqh. Now, let's define the al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya. If we got the definition of both al-Qawaaid and al-Fiqh in this composite term, define al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya. So this definition is chosen by Sheikh Saad al-Shathri. He says حكم كلي فقهي ينطبق على جزئيات عديدة من أبواب مختلفة. A universal fiqhi legal ruling that applies to numerous particulars from various chapters. حكم كلي فقهي Okay, so it is a ruling. You could say qadiyya, because sometimes they say a qadiyya and sometimes they say a hukm. You could say a qadiyya, proposition or a ruling, but he preferred the ruling because they are rulings. So it's a ruling. Kulli means universal. So that distinguishes between Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya and Fiqh. Fiqh rulings are particular. Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya are universal. Fiqhi, that distinguishes al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya from al-Qawaaid al-Usuliyya and other types of Qawaaid. So it pertains to Fiqh. ينطبق applies على جزئياته, its particular, many جزئيات متعددة, many particulars. That's important. من أبواب مختلفة. Different chapters, from different chapters, or various chapters. So here you basically excluded what? Fiqh itself, because it's not universal. Here you excluded what? Other sciences that have qawa'id of other sciences, qawa'id of al-usul, qawa'id of other sciences. Here, جزئيات ينطبق applies to many particulars from different chapters. You're excluding what? The regulators, al-dawabit. You're excluding al-dawabit, the regulators that will apply only within one chapter, that have narrower scope of operation. And here, if you use this definition, and this is where we want to come back to the beginning, we said جامع, مانع, مضطرد, منعكس, ظاهر. Is it inclusive, exclusive, مضطرد, universally applicable, منعكس, reversible, and clear? So now we challenge ourselves. Come up with something that will be under this definition that is not qaida fiqhiyya. Is it inclusive? Does it include all the qawa'id? Yes, it does include it. This is a good definition. This is a jami' mani' muttarid mun'akis definition. This is inclusive of all the qawa'id al-fiqhiyya, exclusive of everything that is not qaida fiqhiyya. So al-qaida al-usuliyya will be excluded by this. Al-fiqh, the rulings of fiqh will be excluded by this. Al-Dabat al-Fiqhi will be excluded by this, various chapters. So this is a good definition. This is a good definition. And I'm just going to do a tatbiq one تطبيق, and we will end with this one تطبيق. So, اليقين لا يزول بالشك. Certainty not overruled by doubt. How do you like English from right to left? Okay. Certainty is not overruled by doubt. Apply the definition. Is it hukm? Is this a ruling? Yes, it's a ruling, of course. Is it, can you say yes or no to this? Yes, you could believe or deny. It's a, it's a qadiyya, it's a proposition, it's a ruling here. You're basically attributing like one category to another category. All right. Hukm, is it kulli? Kulli, universal? Of course. It doesn't get any more universal. You will find applications for this in marriage, in divorce, in financial transactions, in ibadat. We give the example of if you have wudu and you forget if you broke your wudu or not. Do you have wudu? Yes, you have wudu, because the certainty was that you had wudu at one point and you're not sure if you broke it or not. If someone is unsure whether he divorced his wife or not, obsessive people pay attention to this. There are so many people who have OCD, particularly here. So if someone is unsure whether they divorced their wife or not, is she divorced? Why? Because nikah thabat biyaqeen, la yurfa bishak. Nikah was established through certainty. Marriage was established through certainty, will not be overruled by doubt. And in financial transactions, we apply this all the time. In qada, we apply this judiciary, and etc. So kulli, of course kulli. Fiqhi, of course fiqhi. Why is it fiqhi? Why is it fiqhi? Because what is the subject matter of fiqh? Af'al al-mukallafin, the actions of the accountable individuals. What do we mean by subject matter? We'll just cover this subject matter thing because it's coming next. What do we mean by the subject matter of a science? What is the subject matter of medicine? Human body, because that's what the science basically investigates. That's what the science studies and investigates, the human body and the different conditions of the human body and so on. What is fiqh attempting to do? Find the ruling for every human action. What is the subject matter of fiqh? موضوع علم الفقه. Human actions, because that's what we're examining to find the ruling for each and every one of them. Is this fiqhi? Yes, because this is how you're looking at it. You're looking at it from this perspective, from the perspective of being a fiqhi maxim. Can one thing be a fiqhi maxim and an usuli maxim? We will come to this when we discuss the distinction between fiqh and usul. But so far, we have established that this is hukm, it's kulli, and it is fiqhi. ينطبق على جزئيات متعددة. Does it apply to multiple particulars in various chapters? Yes, we have shown that. The definition applies to this, and this would be a good application to keep in mind. And I guess, inshallah, we will start next time to discuss the distinctions between al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya and, let me give you a quick summary for next time, inshallah, so that you go back and study. We will need, since Imam Abu al-Abbas ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said that the most important part of the definition is to distinguish between two concepts, it is very befitting to include right after the definition distinctions, because that is what we need the definition for. And we will not have complete conceptualization of the distinctions unless we actually show the distinctions. So distinctions will be with what? First thing, al-Qawaaid al-Usuliyya, because there is overlap and sometimes confusion. Al-Usuliyya is usul al-Fiqh, okay? Or the legal principles of jurisprudence. Then al-Qawaaid al-Maqasidiyya. Al-Maqasid are the objectives of Shariah. Al-Maqasid are the objectives of Shariah. So the principles of Maqasid, or the objectives of Shariah. Then al-Nazariyat al-Fiqhiyya. These are the legal theories. Then al-Furuq al-Fiqhiyya. These are the distinctions. Then al-Ashbah al-Nadha'ir. How did we translate al-Ashbah al-Nadha'ir? Al-Nadha'ir would be analogues, al-Ashbah resemblances, similarities and analogues, huh? Similarities or something? Yeah, similarities and analogues. And then al-Madarik, or al-Mudrak. Pronunciation is al-Mudrak. Most of the people say al-Madrak, but the people of, linguists say it should be al-Mudrak. This is where you get your ruling from, and we will come to this discussion. And then eventually, or lastly, or finally, al-Dawabit. If you sort out al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, you have really come to a very good understanding of al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya, and you would have come to a great, when we discuss the differences between these al-Qawaaid al-Fiqhiyya and these 7 different topics, you would have come to a very good understanding of the science of fiqh and related sciences as well. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله لكم. We will take a 15-minute break and we will come back for al-Adab al-Mufrad inshallah.